Hey, thanks for watching Numbskull News, and today I'm going to talk about this guy, Finn Mckenty. He's got a great channel called the Punk Rock NBA. He's also got a second channel just called Finn Mckenty. And I highly suggest that y'all check him out, subscribe to him. Awesome stuff. He does a lot of stuff on music. He's more current than anything that I talk about. Not to mention more talented. But he's got a pretty good dry sense of humor. He's a pretty good little smart ass. He does come up with some great ideas for videos that spark, a lot of conversation. And one of them he perceives that there's a problem with metal and as far as women, right? As far as them welcoming women or just maybe being assholes to women. I'm not sure. This video was done a while back, about 10 months ago. And I watched it several times and I highly disagree with a lot of it. But, that's the great thing about a guy like Finn and me watching a guy like Finn. Someone who looks at an issue maybe differently than me. And I think there's some things about this that he's right on. And some things, obviously, that I don't. That's why I'm making the video. So, let's go ahead and get into it.
And just to cut right to the chase, to be completely honest, I think rock really just does not like women all that much. I know that...
See, that's the main thing I disagree with old Finn.
The first thing I wanted to talk about is the double standard that I see. That women, specifically female artists, are judged by a different set of standards than male artists. Basically, they're judged way more harshly than their male peers would be. For example, look at any time somebody brings up Hayley Williams or Gwen Stefani, to name two people. What's the first thing that you see people bring up with them? Probably that they're sellouts, that they just used the scene as a way to get popular, they never really cared about the music, that they went pop, and that was their plan all along. That they were never like real rockers or whatever.
I'm sorry, I don't know a whole lot about the Hayley person. That was a little bit before my time. However, Gwen, she was in a rock band. All right. And yeah, she kind of sold out and went full pop and stupid ass music. I can't stand her music. I liked it when she was in No Doubt. No Doubt wasn't that great. I didn't like them that much. But they had some songs. Tragic Kingdom was a pretty damn good album. But, yeah, I don't have a problem with them saying Gwen's a sellout. That's when you know you made an impact, is when you actually get criticism. All right, no one would give a shit if she went pop, if No Doubt was just nothing, right? But she made a big impact, and No Doubt made a big impact. So in a way, that's kind of giving her props. And by the way, men have dealt with the sellout crap for a long time. How often have we heard that about Metallica? I don't feel sorry for Gwen because she caught some shit. Women aren't above getting called sellouts. That's not a double standard at all. Men have to deal with that. I would say men have to deal with that a hell of a lot more. I'm sorry, the gatekeepers in metal, they go after the guys, man. And they go after them harshly. Way more than women.
Jada Pinkett and Will Smith's daughter, who has a pop punk song out now that's pretty good. And she's talking about the experience her mom had with her nu metal band back in the day called Wicked Wisdom, which you may remember played Ozfest for, I think, a year.
Nobody remembers that.
I've always wanted to do this type of music, and I've always been afraid to do so, Smith told White, because I saw the hate and verbal abuse that my mom had to go through, and that stuck with me. She actually got lots of death threats. It would be mostly through letters, though. When she was on stage, people would say violent things and throw shit at her. Being a black woman in the metal crowd is very, very different on top of the pressures that the music industry puts on you. Now, it's like an added pressure of the metal culture, the metal world, and just rock in general. This is exactly what I'm talking about. She literally says she's scared to play rock because of how the fans are going to treat her. Was Wicked...
That's horseshit. Okay, number one, Wicked Wisdom sucked, okay? They got on Ozfest, of all things, just because of the name, right? Just because of Will Smith, because she was Jada Pinkett Smith. That's the only reason they got on Ozfest. And this isn't the only band to get shit on. The Melvins are hugely respected, massively respected. I cannot tell you how many times they have opened for other bands, and because they're a weird band, the crowd just totally takes a shit on them and hates them. Famously, they had like the worst, most horrible experience touring with White Zombie back in the 90s. Now, the show in Dallas that I saw, I didn't see a lot of that. They had a decent time. They got some shit thrown at them. I'm sure they heard some cuss words from the front, but they got through the whole set and it was fine. But yeah, notoriously, man, they had just, I mean, people throwing shoes at them, batteries, I mean, whatever people can get their hands on and chunk at that band. And it's all male. It's all men, white men, and they're catching tons of shit from the metal audience. That's the metal audience. If they don't like you, they're going to let you know because they paid money. They paid money to see that headliner. They didn't pay money to see your ass. Now, I fell in love with the Melvins during that show, and that's when I became a fan. But that wasn't everybody. And I'm sorry, Wicked Wisdom sucked nuts, and it looked like some celebrity trying to eke in on our metal world, and that just pissed people off. Now, I think it's cool that she was into metal in any kind of way and formed a metal band. I think that's kind of awesome. Every band gets shit thrown at them. Rob Zombie, during that same show, got hit in the face with a big-ass shoe. All right? And he came out with this big, gigantic squirt gun filled with some kind of red liquid. Don't know what that was. And he's like, "Where's Shoe Boy?" They turned it into something fun, right? Instead of just being an Axl Rose and walking off stage. And by the way, Axl Rose, I mean, during their prime, I can't tell you how many shows that dude canceled, how many times he got pissed off because he got hit in the head, or someone else in the band got hit with something that was thrown up on stage. Shit happens during shows, man. And I'm sure there's people that just don't like women rockers. I'm sure that's the case. But it's not so much the case that it's a problem. And it wasn't her problem during, the Ozfest thing. It's because they sucked nuts. And you're on Ozfest with all these great, great bands and people who have been grinding for years to get a spot on Ozfest. And they just show up because they're celebrities. That's what pissed people off. And then the music sucked. I mean, if they went out there and jumped the line to get on Ozfest, then damn it, you better have some songs. All right? Because, look, Jada Pinkett, really, her vocals weren't horrible. The band itself wasn't, like, terrible, terrible. All right? They could play their instruments, but they didn't have one song that was worth a shit. And a lot of it was cringy as fuck. All right? So if you're going to do new metal, you better be damn good. Because that already brings out a lot of hate for people. So you better be damn good at it. And they weren't.
Is this whole narrative that they somehow screwed over the rest of the band, that they were conniving behind the scenes all along to take all the money and hog the spotlight and stab the other people in the band in the back, which again I don't think is true. I think they just happen to be breakout stars that outshine the rest of the band. But again, do we say this?
You have to leave the band in order to be this breakout star? No. Look. There is so many times. There's so many frontmen out there that never left their band, and they easily could have. Look at the Rolling Stones. Freddie Mercury. That dude shines so freaking brightly. He could have went out and done. I know he did some solo stuff, but it was always about Queen. Never left the band. I mean, look at Dave Grohl, right? I mean, Nirvana, and then he starts Foo Fighters. Never just does, "Hey, I'm Dave Grohl," becomes a huge pop star. No, because he's a rock star. He's in a rock band. That's what he wants to do. All right, Gwen Stefani, she got a taste of fame, and now she wanted it all for herself. That's just what it looks like to me. Because you don't have to leave the band, because they were doing some real pop bullshit at the end of No Doubt anyway. So she could have just, so why disband it? Why go out on your own? It's probably because you want all the money for yourself and not have to split it with the band. You just pay salaries to a bunch of industry players, right? But they don't get any points on any albums. They don't get any of the mailbox money. That all goes to Miss Stefani. That's what it looks like to me. Sorry, and that's what it looks like to a lot of people. And that criticism is perfectly fair to do.
Is anybody saying that about Gerard Way or Davey Havok? No, because women are held to a different standard. And what I think is...
Well, hold on. Who are those people? That's what everyone who's watching this video is saying. Who are those people? Because they didn't go out there shaking their ass on TRL as a solo project doing some shitty pop song. Some 13-year-old, pre-adolescent bullshit. And that's what Gwen Stefani did. So she started out doing, a song, an album like Tragic Kingdom with No Doubt that actually had some more adult themes and some heartfelt stuff to it, to the most bubblegum pop bullshit in the world, yeah, it looks like a freaking sellout. And I'm sorry, like I said, you should be able, with no problem at all, without feeling like some kind of a woman hater, and you should be able to give Gwen Stefani all the shit, just like you would any guy. To me, that's treating someone equally. If James Hetfield had left Metallica and started shaking his ass on TRL with some bubblegum pop shit, I'm sorry, we're going to destroy him. And he would catch it way more than Gwen. Gwen doesn't catch near the shit that she probably should. All right, some people hold that view, but it ain't hurting her as far as her career. She's made, I mean, the last 20 years, made shit tons of money all over TV. You know, her star is huge. People love her. That is not a problem for Miss Stefani. She doesn't lose any sleep over someone thinking that she screwed over, no doubt.
Women being judged or viewed primarily through the lens of their appearance. Gwen Stefani must be a vampire. Look at her today. She's over 50 and looks exactly the same. And then someone replies, good genetics and plastic surgery. Again, it's a double standard. Is anybody speculating about what plastic surgery Dave Grohl had? No, because nobody cares. They only talk about women in this way. In the example...
Well, hold on. Dave Grohl doesn't make his living by being beautiful. You know, Gwen Stefani, that's one of her traits. Now, it's not just because she's beautiful, but that helped her get over and helped her succeed, is looking the way she looks. Because, you know, it started out, no doubt, of course she was cute and all, but everyone loved her voice because she had a cool throwback retro voice, and No Doubt was a good band. So she leaves No Doubt and does the bubblegum pop, just void of any kind of heart type of music. It's shit. Then, I'm sorry, but the way she dresses and carries herself through that era, through that time, she's using her looks a lot more than her voice and any talent she has. At no time does Dave Grohl go by his looks. I mean, pop is very superficial, so she went pop, so she went more of the looks route. Sorry, but that's just the truth.
That really crystallizes this to me is the way that people think about Cardi B versus Tim Lambesis. Anytime we bring up Cardi B, you're going to get a million comments from butthurt dudes talking about how she drugged and robbed guys at the strip club back when she was a stripper, and how that makes her a horrible person and will never support her, and she should be in prison and blah, blah, blah. But the way people talk about Tim Lambesis is the exact opposite of that. In Tim's case, you bring him up, and it's like, well, I don't know, man. I don't see what's the big deal here. He made a mistake. He paid his debt. Why don't you just move on? Why do you keep hanging on this? We're going to cling to the fact that Cardi B robbed some losers at a strip club 6 or 7 years ago forever, as though that's like the worst thing anybody's ever done. But with Tim, we're just ready to move on because he did a couple years in prison, and that erases the fact that it ever happened. What?
Yeah, actually it does. That's the problem with the prison system now. People pay their price and their debt to society. They come out and they still have this albatross around their neck and they can't make a living anymore. I mean, look, I know this guy, he's a progressive guy, and I'm not sure he's thinking about this in the right way. How many young black men have their entire lives destroyed because they made a stupid mistake when they were kids? You know, I don't mean to just make it about black kids. I mean, there's plenty of white kids, plenty of Hispanic kids that make a stupid mistake, man. They get into this thought of, you know, I can make some easy money selling some dope. They get popped. They do 5 years in prison at 19. And they get out, they're 24, and they can't get a job because they're just seen as a convict forever. All right. That's the issue with this other guy. He actually paid his debt. She, on the other hand, boasts about these guys she robbed, never got caught, never paid her debt to anybody. She just skated on it. And I'm sorry, yeah, maybe they're losers in a strip club, but there's a lot of people that go to strip clubs. I wouldn't necessarily call them losers. I don't think they're very smart with their money, but, you know, I'm sorry. I'm not going to laud her for that. That's a trash move to drug people and rob them. I mean, you're like one step away from being Bill Cosby. So she's a shit person. And yeah, people feel some kind of way because the other dude paid his debt. So yeah, well, he did a couple years of prison, so we should forget about it. Yeah, you should forget about it. Unless it's for, like, child pornography or child rape or child molestation. or I would just say rape in general, then you don't forget about it. But everything else, yeah, you pay your debt and move on. That's the way it should be.
What it comes down to, I think, is that women have to work way, way harder than men do for the equivalent amount of success in rock. That sucks, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that there really aren't that many female artists in rock. I mean, I can't really blame them. Who would want to deal with all that bullshit? Why?
Okay, well, there's a whole lot to unpack there. Number one, I don't think you have to work harder. I think it helps you get further ahead quicker if you are a woman in rock. And I know maybe that sounds crazy, but, Hailstorm's a great band. But if they had some dude who was the lead singer and the lead guitarist, would anyone give a shit? Would they be anywhere near where they are now in Hailstorm? No. Lizzie Hale she's the heart makes that thing go. They've gotten to way bigger heights with her than they would with some dude. Same thing with Ginger. Ginger would be nothing without that great front woman there. And the fact that she sings the way she does, because she looks like this little cute girl, she probably sings pretty, and then she turns into Satan. It's such a cool trick. It's such a cool vocal that, so several women can do it, but she's one of the absolute best to ever, have that freaking guttural vocal that you can't believe is coming from a woman. So if that was a guy in the band, it wouldn't hit the same, and they wouldn't be as far. Women are great at rock. People tend to like that. And I don't think they have to work harder. I actually think they get further quicker with badass women up front. That's what I think. That's if you could find the badass women.
I thought about having a guest in this video, a woman, to talk about her experiences, but the reason I decided not to do that is because I know this video is going to upset a lot of people, and I felt like that might end up just putting this person in the crosshairs for a lot of abuse. So that's the reason why I chose not to. I don't know if that was the right call or not, but that was my thought process. Number two, I know that a lot of people are going to...
Not everybody that disagrees is going to look like that dude. Whatever the fuck that. I guess that's the incel everyone's talking about. That is hilarious. That's hilarious. Okay, we can move on.
Tokenism. For example, every time you see one of those articles like top 10 female-fronted bands making waves in rock right now, I know that the people making those articles and everybody else who champions female-fronted bands means well, but I don't think those terms are helpful because they're based on essentialism, which is the idea that people are fundamentally different based on their race or sex or body type or any of these other characteristics. In this case, that it defines them by their gender, reduces them to a woman in rock rather than a musician in rock. I thought Neko Case had a really good take on this when Playboy wrote some dumb article about her. Neko Case is breaking the mold of what women in the music industry should be. And she replies, "Am I? I'm not a fucking woman in music, I'm a fucking musician in music." Which I think is exactly right. By putting women in a separate category, basically what you're saying is that they're pretty good for a girl. You're othering them by putting them in their own little category. Like, here's the rock awards and here's the women's rock awards. Well,
No, that's not what that is. I think at that point, people are reading too much into it. I think this Neko Case person, I have no idea who that is, but I think she's reading too much into it. I think what they're saying is that we've seen women in rock before, but she is putting a twist on it or doing something new with it, And by the way, there are differences between men and women. Apparently, men have a lot more interest in metal and hearing people talk about. This is nerdy shit listen. If you're on YouTube watching this video, if you're the one person watching this video, you're a fucking nerd. You're watching a guy reacting to another guy, not playing metal, just talking about rock and metal. Okay. So, yeah. Women aren't into that. So we're different. Most women, regardless of what fucking ESPN tries to tell you and tries to sell you, most women aren't into sports. Oh my God. They just aren't. And no, it's not. And no one is saying that these women in rock, they're pretty good for women. No. No one's going to say that about Lizzie Hale. No one's going to say that I bet a lot of these ladies that have been around for a long time, they say, look, they're badass. Period. But it's cool that it's a woman, because men have grossly outnumbered women when it comes to being fans in metal. Now, there were a lot more women in the 90s and before that were into metal than there are today, but the numbers were still skewed. Now it's just even, the gap's even wider. But back then it was a little closer, but it was still a rather large chasm in between the fandom. And it really depended on how cute the guys were. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna tell you, there were a lot of ladies who loved grunge music. There were a lot of just look. I mean, you look at Unplugged. Look at Unplugged, Pearl Jam. All right, Eddie Vedder was a sexy son of a bitch, and there were women salivating. Chris Cornell, women were going nuts for that dude back then. So, as far as overall rock, yeah, it was a little bit closer than it is today. But you had a lot of sexy frontmen back then, stuff like that. They weren't trying to make themselves sexy. They didn't, it wasn't the 80s and the big hair shit. Although then it was even closer. Women love that shit.
Why should women be put in their own special little box over here? Especially considering
They're not.
That means the underlying assumption is that the main category is for men. Shouldn't we just want everybody to be in the same category regardless of race or gender or anything else? And again, I know that these people mean...
They are. But when you have the minority that's kicking ass as a lead in a band, or just in a band period, they're a badass bassist or a drummer or a lead guitarist. There's plenty of those women out there. And they're kicking ass in a band, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, that's awesome. That girl's awesome, man. I hope more young girls see this girl so that they too will pick up instruments, or they too will fall in love with rock and want and be inspired by it and get involved. That's all this crap is about. We want more women in rock. There's no problem with that. It's a lot of talented women in there. And if they're talented and they can write and they're badass, yay. It's positive.
All the sexist or misogynist lyrics and imagery in rock. In particular metal, I think, and for the most part, nobody really thinks anything of it. Like Cannibal Corpse can go play a song called Intros Ripped from a Virgin's Cunt, and nobody thinks anything of it. But I make a video like this, and people are gonna get super upset. So what does that tell you? The most common thing people will say about that is, oh, they're just doing it for shock value, or they're like playing a character. And I think that's probably true. Like, I don't think that all these death metal bands that use imagery of women getting mutilated or write these lyrics kind of stuff, I don't think that they necessarily hate women. Some of them do. Like, for example, there's a band called Female Nosebreaker. But let's say that's true and that it is primarily just for shock value. Well, it's still not cool, because of course it's going to make women feel at least a little bit uncomfortable, even if they know that. Like, for example, let's say that you're a woman who's into metal and you're like, you know what, I want to go see Cannibal Corpse, and you see some guy on stage grunt that this next song is called Fucked with a Knife. And then you see all these dudes in the crowd cheer him on. How would that make you feel? I don't know about you, but if I was a woman surrounded by dudes who are very excited about a song called Fucked with a Knife, I probably wouldn't feel very safe. And what I do know is that there's a lot...
Well, then you need to take your candy ass on home and turn on the Backstreet Boys and leave real music to real people. That's all I'm sorry. When it comes to that shit, dude, it's Cannibal Corpse. It's like going to see a horror movie. It's not for real. What metal is very testosterone-laden shit. It's blunt force trauma. That's metal. All right? You don't have to have balls to play metal or to like metal, but it does help. It does help. Dude, metal does... We talk about everything. Everything's out in the open. Everything... I mean, there are lyrics that will make you want to puke. And there are lyrics that are like, that's just stupid. But, and there's women. Dude, I got a cousin, female cousin, got me into 6 Feet Under. My daughter got me into cattle decapitation. All right, so there are women out there that are into extreme metal, but there's just not that many. All right, and that's for a reason. This music is mostly made by men, invented by men, for other men. It's what these guys know. We don't know how to write shit for women because we're not fucking women. Alright, so you write what you know. You play what you know, what you fall in love with, what you can relate to, and hopefully, if it's good enough, other people can relate to it as well, and then you can make a living. You can monetize that. But what you don't do is try to be a guy and try to write something generically for a woman, hoping that they come into it, when actually most women aren't into metal, period. It has nothing to do with the lyrics or the imagery. They don't like the harsh sounds. They want the nice little butterfly wings in their ears a lot of times. There are those few special women that are into metal. I've seen women get into a pit and just throw elbows with the guys. Those are just special, beautiful, beautiful women. And they are always welcome in the pit. They are always welcome at the show. They are welcome anywhere where metal is. But most women can't handle that music. Period. They can't relate to it. Has nothing to do with the imagery or the lyrics. And no band worth their salt is going to start censoring their shit and what they want to talk about or how they want to try to gross you out with worrying about what a young 15-year-old girl thinks or a 25-year-old girl or a 45-year-old woman thinks. They don't care. They only know what they know, and that's what they're going to do. And there's nothing fucking wrong with that. And if women don't like it, don't fucking listen to it. And you know what? The vast majority of them don't, and they never have. And they never have. And metal should not give a shit if these young girls or older women in general, we don't like metal. This is too rough. It's too... Okay, fine. Don't. You could go listen to Faith Hill. Listen to Beyonce. There's all manner of shit. All right, you could turn on... Maybe they love Nirvana, but Cannibal Corpse. Oh, okay. It's not for you. Fuck you. Don't listen to it. And you don't. The vast majority of women are not into Cannibal Corpse. The vast majority of women aren't into, almost any kind of rock. They ain't into Black Sabbath or Pantera. There are those special women that are, but most of them aren't. No problem.
A lot of women who feel like they can't say anything about that, like they have to go along with it and pretend like they're cool, because if they don't, they're uptight. Because again, getting back to the double standards thing, when men speak up and voice their opinion, they're being assertive, but when women do it, they're being shrill and bitchy. That particular point is something I feel very strongly about, because I've seen this happen in the workplace a lot. Men who...
In the workplace, he's absolutely right. That's... there are women that are shrill and bitchy, but there are a lot of women that actually have real critical points that should be listened to. He's right about that. But in the rock world, should we give a shit if you got a problem? No. No! Metal's been surviving on men, vast majority men, making their money off of men for decades now. So, who cares? The women have never really been behind metal. Now, like I said, there have been periods of time where you've had more women into it, and especially depending on the genre, the big hair genre, the grunge genre. But most of the shit, thrash, didn't have a ton of women behind thrash, or liking thrash, or buying thrash. That didn't happen. Or the new wave of British heavy metal guys that came out in the 70s and 80s, like Iron Maiden, there weren't a ton of women behind them either. There wasn't a huge woman fan base. There wasn't a huge woman fan base behind Black Sabbath. So your little darker theme stuff, your little heavier stuff, and the heavier it gets, the less women you have in there. I don't know. Like I said, then you get to who's the hardcore women out there? Who's listening to Cannibal Corpse? All right, those are the cool ones. All right, those are the ones that, hey, they get it. They like, oh yeah, this is man stuff, but dude, I love it. We're supposed to just change stuff for the ladies. No. Why don't you, if you're a fan, you're a fan. We shouldn't have to change it because of you and your sensitivity.
Look at all the female artists in metal and rock who are super respected. Arch Enemy, Spirit Box, Smashing Pumpkins, Ginger, Hailstorm, and that is true. Which brings up my last point, that I don't think it's quite as simple as saying that rock fans don't like female artists, although there is some of that. What I think they really, really don't like is female fans. or any artist whose fan base is primarily young and female. For example, let's look at these 2 comments. This is about Ghostmane. People who like his music are mainly edgy teenage girls who want to be alternative but only have the pink streaks in the front of their hair. And MGK is an aimless culture vulture, and his fans are teenage girls or women in their 20s who think getting piercings is a substitute for personality. Again, I don't agree with that, but let's say that it's true. What does being female have to do with that? It's okay to be a guy with a pink streak in his hair, but it's not okay to be a woman with a pink streak in her hair? We've seen this happen so many times. The second an artist becomes popular with teenage girls, rock fans turn on them and hate them. I think that's a big part of why people hated like MySpace, metalcore, and deathcore. Talked about this before, but you know, Suicide Silence and Bring Me the Horizon, those are both super heavy bands that metal fans should have loved. And why didn't they? Well, I think a huge part of it is because of their fan base, because they had a lot of young girls who liked that band, and rock fans do not like artists whose fan base includes a lot of young women. Waterparks is another.
Hold on. Why did young girls like this band? I want to say at the time they were out, or the time this video hit, I'm going to say it was near the Justin Bieber time, right? Justin Bieber time. They have a cute front man. This is why a lot of the metal elitists didn't like this guy, right? Because he's playing to that. He's a little cute little bastard, right? And he's playing to those teenage girls. That's why they didn't like. That's why they didn't like the '80s hair band guys. You know, that's why they did. That's why they hate grunge music. Because I'm sorry, like I said, look at young Eddie Vedder. You know, Chris Cornell. Those were some sexy sons of bitches. Dude, I'd sleep with them. I mean, they were just badass. They were great looking, and I think it might be some of the jealousy part of it, right? But it ain't like it's hurting anybody. Who cares? You're gonna have hate.
Example of that, the list goes on and on and on. And again, it's an example of this double standard. Like, yes, of course a lot of these fangirls are annoying because they're teenagers. Like, teenage guys are annoying too. Like, teenagers in general are irritating. But rock fans never talk shit about the fanboys. It's always the fangirls. Another one.
Oh, that's bullshit. Fanboys get lit up all the time. I mean, especially between like Marvel and DC. Oh, you're a DC fanboy. You're a Marvel fanboy. That's a bad point right there.
They don't really like that band. They only listen to him because the singer's cute. Well, for one, we don't know that that's true.
Yeah, we do.
They don't actually like MGK or Ghostmane or
Look at this punk.
Or whatever.
Look at
And
this
number
douche.
two, so what if that's the case? I mean, I think Jennifer Lawrence is pretty easy on the eyes, and when I go see a J-Law movie, I enjoy the fact that she is a very good actress and she tends to be in good movies, and she's also nice to look at. Is that so wrong? I don't think it is. Which gets to my point, again, the double standard. Rock fans never criticize men for doing the same thing. For example, Ginger. How many fans of that band simp for the singer Tatiana? I would say quite a few. Nobody has a problem with men who find her attractive, but as soon as a female fan finds the singer of one of their favorite bands attractive, she's instantly written off as a clueless fangirl, and they turn on that artist. Again, it's this like kind of gross incel energy. It's obvious why they act this way.
I don't know anything about the incel stuff. That's just something that's thrown out there, maybe because it's funny. But, all right, you know, he could have a little bit of a point there. But it's not just about, okay, cute guy. Because Tatiana from Ginger, that band is freaking amazing. The band itself is freaking amazing. And she's amazing. And she's amazing to look at. That's 3 amazings you got. Now let's look at Motley Crue, right? Motley Crue had tons of women that love Motley Crue and still love them, by the way. But think about it back then. Outside of Mick Mars, you had a bunch of sexy looking dudes with the big done up hair. They were going for it. Had their mom's makeup, all that shit. All right, the videos. You know, the way they wrote their music, everything was geared towards the girl. All right. That's the way it was. They didn't do hardcore music. All right. It was basically 80s hard rock. All right. You can essentially call it that, but it's the big hair shit. But it was the softer side of the Sears when it came to metal. That's why the ladies loved it. And the look of the guys. All that stuff helped. It wasn't just about the look, though. With Ginger, it's just, yeah, guys say, oh, wow, she's beautiful. But then they realize that band is amazing. She can sing her ass off. And she's got a great guttural scream. And who saw that coming? So it's like she's hitting, and that band is hitting on every level.
And lastly, the credibility skill check that all female fans have to pass when they wear a band shirt. The whole, like, cool Metallica shirt, can you name 3 songs? As though it's so hard to believe that a woman couldn't listen to fucking Metallica, one of the...
Most women can name 3 Metallica songs. Let's just put it that way. But if I see a woman wearing a Cannibal Corpse shirt, I may ask that. I'm like, wow, you're into Cannibal Corpse? What's your top 3 songs? Come on. You know, I don't know. I don't think there's a... I mean, that's something that's metal, dude. I mean, you might get the same kind of question with a guy, but yeah, guys may be a little more of a dick when it comes to a woman wearing a shirt. That is actually a sound point, I believe.
Most commercially successful bands of all time that's been around for like 40 years. You doubt the fact that she could possibly listen to them based simply on the fact that she's a woman?
Well, name 3 songs that's not on the Black Album. I guarantee you most of those girls probably can't.
The flip side of that is that it's arguably even worse if you do pass the credibility check. Like, remember years ago my wife had an Iron Maiden shirt and I was like, I don't know, I don't think you should wear that. She didn't understand why until she did. She wore it to the mall and she came back and she was like, oh my god, like 5 guys tried to talk to me because I was wearing an Iron Maiden shirt. So it's like, again, they're either hated or put on a pedestal. Like, oh my god, she likes Metallica, I'm in love with her.
Well, you can't win. I don't know. I think there's something a little extra sexy when a woman is out there and she's into metal, especially if it's in a band that you love too. So if you both have that in common, you're both fans, you know, that's awesome. I got a friend of mine who's really into Clutch, got me into Clutch, and fell in love with a chick who's really into Clutch. That's just, you know, that's what they first bonded on. It's not a problem. I mean, I don't know. I don't see it as a problem. Metal just doesn't lend itself to feminine sensibilities. It just doesn't. And, you know, God bless those women that are into it and start their own metal bands and get success.
You should be happy when an artist comes along like MGK or whoever that's bringing young girls into the scene, because guess what? As I've talked about before, teenage girls are the arbiters of pop culture. They are the ones more than any other group of people who decides what's cool, and you should respect that.
Oh, okay. So that when the next NSYNC hits, I know exactly who to blame, right? It's the shitty little girls. I mean, that's why people don't like those fucking bands. That's why people in metal hate that shit. Because these little preteen bitches that listen to it. We can't, that's the whole problem. So that's why we don't like MGK. That's one of the reasons. Because he's a little punk ass. He's a little punk bitch with no talent. And all these girls love him. And he's trying to play up that character, right? Oh, look at me. Maybe I'll kill myself. I wish you would. It's fucking A. Inside of that whole video, there was one other point I wanted to address, but I wanted to wait to the end. When he said that's probably why there's not many women in rock. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Mckenty, I wrote a bunch of them down. And they've always been there. They've always been there. You know, Mama Cass, Janis Joplin, Hart, The Runaways, Joan Jett, Lita Ford, Wendy O. Williams, Pat Benatar, Annie Lennox, Stevie Nicks, Kim Gordon of the Sonic Youth, Chrissie Hynde, The Pretenders, Patti Smith. All right, those are usually some of the go-tos, right? Well, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to name off all kinds of bands that may not be female-fronted, but maybe have a bass player, drums, guitarist, lead guitarist, who knows. These are all the acts, not all of them. This is just a sampling of women in rock and metal. Alanis Morissette, she did have that one that one rock album, Jagged Little Pill. Elastica, Garbage, The Cranberries, PJ Harvey, Hole, The Cardigans, Catatonia, Sleeper. Wait, We got more. There's more women in rock. They've always been in rock. They've been in metal forever. Lacuna Coil, Nightwish, Tetrarch, Nita Strauss of Alice Cooper, Baroness, Orinanthe, Frantic Amber. Let's see. Girl School. That's an old one. Bleeding Through, Love Bites, Vixen, Mayan, Nervosa. That's kind of like a Brazilian, all female, like almost like a female Sepultura. They're pretty badass. Voyager, Electric Wizard, Boris, Burning Witches, D Drive, Blackthorn, Kitty, Aldius, White Zombie, Cold Chamber, Smashing Pumpkins, Kid Rock, Flyleaf. Oh, let's see. There's Amy Lee, Pretty Reckless, Ginger, Hailstorm, like we said before, L7, Mazzy Star, A Perfect Circle, Four Non Blondes, Blondie, The Go-Go's, and they just got to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for some reason. And I also put in Tina Turner because she's a badass. All right. That's just a sampling of the females in rock throughout rock history. And it was a black woman that first recorded Hound Dog, which was Elvis's first big hit. So, they've always been there. So, throughout the history of rock and metal, women have been in there. They've been doing their thing. And by the way, getting plenty of respect while doing it. So, no, I don't feel that they are mistreated. I don't think they are held outside. I don't think they, are unfairly shit upon for being a sellout. If you're a sellout, you're a sellout. And you should be called as a sellout, regardless of what you got between your legs. I'm sorry if Gwen Stefani got a little bit of shit for that, but it goes with the territory. She's got hundreds of millions of dollars, probably not to care anyway. I think women have been integral in rock and metal. They've been there for a long time. Of course, they are vastly outnumbered by the men, but that's kind of true with the statistic as far as interest. More men are interested in metal and rock than women are. That's the way it always has been. And even the numbers on his own channel show that. He's a popular guy with a really good channel, a good personality. He puts out a really good product, unlike me and my channel. All right, he's way better. So, but women don't watch him. Women just don't watch him. Because he's not talking about something they're interested in. Look, those great metal chicks out there, I love you. I see y'all are awesome. And look, if one of them wants to go see Cannibal Corpse, all right, she's not going to be offended by Fucked with a Knife. Why? Because she's already heard it and she's a fan. That's why she's going to the show. That's why she knows the name of the band. There's no woman going to a Cannibal Corpse show being horrified. They're not going to go unless they're already a fan. And there's not that many of them, women fans, that go to a Cannibal Corpse show. They know what they're expecting and they want it just like the guys do. They want to hear Fucked with a Knife. So, that's all I got on this crap. I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.